Tonight's big stories. Angat's hydropowered plant will undergo a 2-month shutdown for repairs. What does this mean for power and water being supplied by the dam? We'll clarify this with MWS's Division Manager for Angat, Patrick Dizon.
Deaths caused by election-related violence all over the country has climbed to 19 as tensions persist in some areas during the counting of votes. COMELEC spokesperson Rex Laudianco will join us for discussion later in the show.
And the Philippines claps back at China after being accused of trespassing in waters around its Scarborough Shoal or Bajo de Masinloc, which is located well inside the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. Welcome to the program. I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Denise Tan.
We'll start off the show tonight with the closure of Angat Dam's hydroelectric power plant. The hydropower plant in Bulacan is scheduled for major repairs and will be closed for 2 months starting November 6 until January 6 next year. The power plant's operator, Angat Hydropower Corporation, says the closure is part of efforts to modernize the facility.
Now, despite a 2-month shutdown, the MWSS has assured residents of Metro Manila and nearby provinces that water supply will not be affected. In a statement, the agency said the primary objective of this undertaking is to prolong the lifespan of the plant to ensure stable water supply for domestic use and irrigation.
Why have we been monitoring the Angat Dam? It's because the Angat Dam supplies 90% of NCR's water needs, as well as Bulacan, Rizal, and Cavite. So it's reassuring to hear that na hindi maapektuhan yung water supply natin.
But aside from that, as we know, Angat Hydropower Plant also has a 218 megawatt capacity. So another question from the water supply is how will this affect our power supply as well during that 61-day period na may repair na mangyayari?
But as a solution to the temporary closure, the MWS has said it spearheaded the creation of comprehensive guidelines on the operation of the Angat Dam spillway and low-level outlet to ensure water supply during the plant's shutdown. These guidelines have been agreed upon by members of the interagency TWG, or a technical working group on Angat Dam operations and management, including the NWB, NPC, NIA, MWSS, and key stakeholders like Maynilad and Manila Water, as well as AHC. And to tell us more about what we can expect from this scheduled shutdown, we have with us tonight MWS's Division Manager for Angat Dam, Engineer Patrick Dizon. A good evening, Engineer.
Hi, good evening, Gretchen and Denise, and to all of your viewers.
Okay, Engineer, we're all familiar with the Angat Dam and we've been monitoring the water levels, especially because it is El Nino. Tell us what's going to happen here exactly. I guess in layman's terms, kasi marami po kami binasa na medyo technical, para maipaliwanag lang po natin, ano po ba yung mangyayari na rehabilitation and repair?
Opo, just to contextualize, Gretchen, So yung Angat Dam at yung kaniyang spillway po ay ino-operate po ng National Power Corporation. At yung power plant component naman po nito ay ino-operate po ng isang private company which is the Angat Hydropower Corporation. So ang MWS at ang National Irrigation Authority ang main na stakeholders ng dam nito. So tama ka kanina, Gretchen, yung pinagkukuhanan ng 90% ng tubig na tinitreat ng Maynilad at Manila Water ay nanggagaling sa Angat Dam at amin po itong pinuprovide sa ating mga customers sa Maynila, Cavite, Bulacan at Quezon Province. So maliban dito, pati din yung 24,000 na hectares na sakahan ng mga farmers dito sa Bulacan at yung portions ng Pampanga at Bustos Dam. So numpisaan yung pag-construct nitong dam na to noong 1961 at natapos yung construction nito noong 1967. So sa ngayon, Gretchen, ay nasa 56 years old na itong dam na to. So nitong 2018, inumpisahan yung modernization ng dam na to at natapos yung ginawa ng Angat Hydro na strengthening works bago matapos or bago magkaroon ng COVID pandemic. So ang ginawa po ay nilaparan po yung kanyang dam para mas matibay at para in preparation na din yung tinatawag na big one o yung malakas na lindol. So yung gagawin na rehabilitation works na mag-umpisa nitong November 6 sa main penstock ng turbina, ito sa kabuang programa ng rehabilitation work. At kami naman po sa NWSS ay suportado dito sa rehabilitation work na to kasi ikabubuti po ito ng ating dam kasi 56 years old na rin po ito. So para sa kalaman po ng ating mga customers ay ina-assure po ng NWSS na hindi naman po maapektuhan yung supply ng tubig sa Metro Manila kapag nagkaroon po ng total plant shutdown yung Angat Hydro.
Sir, kanina nabanggit na natin, no, may raw water supply, wala po tayong magiging problema dyan. But what about on the side of the concessionaires? How sure are we na walang magiging problema with the management of the supply?
Yeah, actually, Denise, 2 years na itong plano ng Angat Hydro na to at hindi namin ito pinapatuloy kasi or pinapayagan kasi gusto natin ma-assure na walang magiging problema sa supply ng tubig sa ating mga customers. So ang condition namin dito bago namin inaprubahan ay dapat yung Angat elevation ay nasa 202.5 meters. Sa ngayon, Denise, ang elevation ng Angat Dam is nasa 209 meters. So mataas na ito at malapit na rin yung target namin at the end of this year na 210 to 212 para wala din tayo maging problema by next year. So maliban dyan, ay ang MWSS kasama yung aming mga concessionaryo ay ginawa namin yung paghahanda tulad ng nirehabilitate namin yung ating tinatawag na low-level outlet. Pinalitan namin yung mga malalaking valves para ma-assure natin na gumagana ito habang nagkakaroon ng total plant shutdown. At nagkaroon din kami ng, nag-deploy kami ng remote operating vehicle kasi yung intake ng ating low-level intake ay masyadong malalim, nasa 100 meters, so hindi kayang idayog ng mga tao. Kaya nag-deploy kami nitong ROV na to para ma-assure lamang na intact pa yung intake nito at magamit natin sa November 6, which is yung umpisa ng rehabilitation works.
Okay, sir, sabi niyo po, this will be a repair and rehab of the hydroelectric power plant. Meron po bang nasira? Ano po yung exactly nasira dun sa power plant po natin? And can you explain to us what you mean by you created comprehensive guidelines on the Angat Dam spillway and the low-level outlet as a solution for the temporary shutdown?
Yeah, actually, Gretchen, nabanggit ko nga kanina, 56 years old na tong dam na to. So we need to shut down itong penstock na to para ma-check natin kung may sira nga ba talaga. No?
So check pa lang po natin. Oo.
Yeah, part po ito ng assessment activity po natin para malaman po natin kung may kailangan po tayong i-repair. Kasi itong penstock na to, dito dumadaan yung tubig na papunta sa ating turbina, sa main turbine at saka auxiliary turbine. Ito yung mga turbina na nagpapa-generate ng kuryente at yung tubig na nagpapaikot dito sa turbina. Ito po yung napupunta sa ating mga dams, sa Bustos Dam for the national irrigation at sa Ipo Dam naman para doon sa ating domestic supply. So yung ginawa po namin guidelines kasi during this total plant shutdown, hindi po natin ma-operate itong mga turbina na to, so hindi tayo magkakaroon ng tubig. Kaya ang ginawa po natin ay in-assure po natin na ma-operate po natin yung spillway saka yung low-level outlet. Kaya dito po manggagaling yung tubig na isusupply po natin sa ating customers dito sa Maynila at Manila water areas po. No? Kaya in-spearhead po namin yung paggawa nitong guidelines na to para maprubahan po ng ating Angat Technical Working Group.
Sir, nabanggit nyo na siya kanina, no? Yung talking about the kuryente. But what about the energy mix and supply natin? Gaano ba kalaki nga yung magiging impact nitong plant shutdown with power outages? May mga ganyan ba tayong scenarios na nakikita?
Yeah, actually, Denise, I can't answer for the energy kasi ang NWSS ay for the water lamang po. So, much better po the Department of Energy will answer that question.
Okay. Pag-asa reports that the peak of El Nino may be experienced from November 2023 to January 2024, and the total planned shutdown will be from November 6 to January 6. Have you prepared for that exactly?
Yeah, actually, Gretchen, as mentioned a while ago, ang target namin for this end of 2023 ay dapat ang elevation ng Angat Dam is nasa 210 to 212. So sa ngayon is nasa 209 na, so malapit na po dito sa ating target na elevation. So yung target elevation na yon ay ma-assure po natin by the next year, which is the second quarter of next year, which is the onset ng ating El Nino, ay magiging safe po tayo. So, and also, we already constructed or implemented yung ating mga short to medium water sources natin, like yung pag-implement po natin or pag-construct po natin ng mga planta dito sa Laguna Lake. And sa poblasyon Muntinlupa, which is around 150 million liters per day, natapos na namin yung phase 1 po nito, nasa around 50 million liters per day, which we are targeting to operate it by the end of this year. And also, aside from that, meron din po tayong additional na planta dito sa ating East Bay part po ng Laguna Lake, which is around 250 million liters per day din. And we hopefully, we operate din po yung phase 1 nito, which is around 50 million liters per day by the end of this year. And aside from that, we are already constructing or rehabilitating din po yung mga deep wells po natin. Yung mga deep wells na to or yung groundwater are not allowed to operate by the National Water Resources Board since 2014, since nagkakaroon ng land subsidence dito sa Metro Manila. So we requested for the operation of these deep wells para makatulong lamang dito sa onset ng El Nino. So aside from that, Gretchen, meron din po tayong mga planta or water treatment plant na kinonstruct dito sa mga rivers like Marikina River, Cavite Rivers. So ito pong mga planta na to, it's a modular water treatment plants, are now completed na po and ready to operate. So yun po yung mga short to medium long-term water sources po natin na makakatulong on the onset of the El Nino next year.
Safe to say that this will increase the capacity of the establishment in preparation for 2024, which might be one of the warmest years because of the El Nino. Tama po ba yun?
Tama, Gretchen.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us tonight and for assuring us that our water supply will still be there for the next coming months. Thank you for coming in tonight. MWS's Division Manager for Angat Dam, Patrick Dizon. Up next, it's a wrap for this year's Barangay Sangguniang Kabataan elections. We'll get updates on the vote counting and proclamation straight from COMELEC spokesperson Rex Laudianco. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News. Deaths from election-related violence has climbed to 19 as tensions continued in some areas during the vote counting. Most of these deaths are recorded in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region or BARM. In Maguindanao del Norte, gunshots were heard past 3 in the afternoon at the Simuay Junction Central Elementary School after the Electoral Board decided to move the canvassing of votes to the municipal office's gymnasium. The COMELEC says there's nothing wrong in changing the venue for the vote counting and canvassing, especially if there are security threats in the initial venues. Footage showed people running out of the school upon hearing the gunshots, while teachers hid at the principal's office. 4 people were injured, including 1 soldier who was supposedly hit by a stray bullet. There were also reports of violent commotion among residents in barangays in Sultan Kudarat and Lanao del Sur due to snatching of ballots. PNP data shows that there were 13 recorded cases of election-related violence in BARM, and these left 11 dead and 14 injured. COMELEC vows to file charges against those behind cases of violence.
It's impossible for our 2 personnel to cover all those precincts. Kaya na may nangyayari talaga. Wala doon ang ating mga COMELEC personnel. Kaya it will greatly depend on the witnesses.
Back here in the metro, tensions have also been recorded in some areas over vote counting. At the East Rembo Elementary School in Taguig, residents barricaded classrooms last night to prevent teachers who served as poll clerks from exiting the premises. Residents explained that winners of the election have yet to be formally proclaimed, so there should not be attempts to return the ballot boxes and other election paraphernalia back to the COMELEC office of Taguig. They fear of incidents of fraud or cheating if they lose sight of the ballot boxes. But the teachers say they only have duplicate copies and not the original election returns. The poll clerks were only able to exit the school at around 11 p.m. when they were escorted out by the police. Vote counting continued until dawn and winners have been successfully proclaimed. Now, there were also some tension over in Barangay Tanyong, Marikina, where supporters of one candidate supposedly spotted members of the Electoral Board trying to open ballot boxes. The PPCRV says ballot boxes should only be opened in front of poll watchers and the voting public. The teachers say they only wanted to make sure that everything's in order, as this was their first time to be on duty for the elections. The principal of Doña Rosario Elementary School also clarified that the ballot boxes could not be opened as these were locked. Vote counting ended at 5 in the morning and was immediately followed by the proclamation.
Here to talk to us about these election-related tensions reported all over the country, we have with us on the show tonight COMELEC spokesperson Rex Laudianco. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, Ma'am Gretchen and Ma'am Diane, and good evening to our viewers.
All right. You've earlier said that the elections were generally peaceful, but there have been 19 deaths. Take us through that number. Put it into context for us. How is that compared to the past BSKEs?
For the past barangay and SK elections coming from 2010, there are almost 100 incidents, or election-related incidents, and we're down to 29 right now, though it's very unfortunate that there are 19 deaths and 19 injuries resulting from these reported and validated election-related incidents. It's no comfort for us that there are deaths, but if we are looking at the statistics, we're actually going into less election-related incidents coming from the past election, and significantly coming from the past national and local elections. We have far fewer election-related incidents.
Okay, medyo marami-rami po sa BARM. Ano po yung assessment niyo po doon sa region na yon?
It's always the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region which has the highest number and concentration of election-related incidents. Medyo talaga pong historically sa BARM po natin nakikita na mataas po ang incidents ng mga violence and others.
Sir, how do you guys plan to improve the situation moving forward? Lalo na, alam naman natin na magiging maikli lang yung magiging termino ng mga bagong elect ngayon.
And we are going to have another elections, barangay and SK elections in 2025 within 5 months from the midterm elections. So our security preparations will be further improved as we assess the conclusion of our barangay and SK elections. What we had proven in our security template is that when we have law enforcement and military personnel on site, it deters further creation of violence. At nakikita rin po namin na pagka po meron tayong na mga nailagay na mga law enforcement and military personnel, should flashpoints happen, they will be able to immediately apprehend and pacify the situation. This is what happened in the incident yesterday, specifically in the Dato Odin Sinsuat, where immediately after the strafing incident, perpetrators were arrested, and also in the incident where more than 50 persons armed with bolos were forcing their way inside the school. Before they could get inside, they were already apprehended by the combined forces of the police and the military. So we will be further improving on this, and we hope that we will be having more than enough troops and police personnel and other deputized agencies that could help us come 2025.
We were earlier reading a report on what happened in Taguig and Marikina, kung saan marami po nagpuprotesta sa labas ng mga eskwelahan. Could you take us through what happened there? Yun nga, parang hindi pa raw naproklama, pero gusto na dalhin sa COMELEC. Meron na po ba tayong kalinawan dun po sa nangyari?
That is really a very unfortunate situation po, Ma'am Gretchen and Ma'am Denise. The rules of procedure, specifically COMELEC Resolution 10924, provides that when the electoral boards have already finished their canvassing, they are to submit their duly accomplished election returns to the Barangay Board of Canvassers. It is not the duty of the electoral boards to proclaim the winners and canvass the votes from the ERs and proclaim the winners. It is the duty of the BBOC. The second duty after the submission of the electoral board by the election returns is that they are supposed to take these ballot boxes back to the city or municipal treasurer's office, who will have custody of these ballot boxes. Na, really unfortunate po na pinipigilan sila ng mga tao from doing their jobs. This is what we have been explaining since last night. Now, it is within the COMELEC rules of procedure, within Resolution 10924, that the teachers are really supposed to bring these ballot boxes back to the custodian. Mas mahirap nga po na nag-stay ang ballot boxes at school. Dapat po pagkatapos bilangin, yung election returns ma-submit na yan. At hindi po balota ang kinakanvas at binibilang to proclaim the winning candidate. These are the election returns. Isa pa pong assurance natin sa public is that the votes, as counted and read, the results of which are contained in the ER, they all have copies of this ER. Doon po dapat binabase yung canvassing at yung proclamation later on. That's why we have been calling on our law enforcement personnel to assist yung mga ganito, electoral boards in distress, and try to explain to the people that it is the duty of the electoral boards to bring back immediately those ballot boxes.
Sabihin, wala pong nilabag na protocol ang ating mga guro dun sa mga instances na yon. Okay.
Wala po. In fact, ma'am, nakikita nga po namin na meron pong nilalabag yung umaharang sa kanila. Dahil po it is an election offense to prevent all workers from performing their duty.
Pero sa ganito po ay tayo po ba yung magsasampa ng kaso?
Dito naman po, kung hindi naman po talagang napigilan, nagkaroon lamang ng delay. And I think natapos din naman po nung na-explain at dumating yung law enforcement personnel, I think that filing cases against them, unless there are grave threats, unless it caused a delay or the process of the elections, that's the only time we will be considering filing cases against them. And it also depends upon the electoral boards. If the electoral boards will file complaints, and then COMELEC has to act on it.
Sir, kamusta naman yung mga nag-violate ng campaign, ng rules, yung usad ng investigation, at ilan na nga po ba ang disqualified?
Right now, na-resolve na po ng COMELEC before the elections are around 20 plus cases, plus 7 for other reasons. Unfortunately, these cases have yet to become final and executory, and meron pa pong time and opportunity ang ating mga respondents dito to file their respective motions for reconsideration. But nonetheless, what COMELEC did was to issue orders for suspension of proclamation so that justice will be served and that the resolution of the cases will not be preempted. This is the same situation with the other cases which had yet to be resolved and are pending, almost 256 of them. And yesterday, there are additional 60 cases which have been filed for illegal campaigning and premature campaigning. And we expect that these cases will be resolved sometime in November. At the most, December po nila mariresolve natin based on the commitment of Chairman Garcia.
Ibig sabihin po, wala pa pong proclamation dun sa mga involved sa mga kaso na yon?
That is correct. Nauna na pong nilabas ng COMELEC and Bank yung suspension ng proclamation nila for all those persons who are facing cases and have pending petitions for disqualification against them. So far, insofar as the 256 orders for suspension that issued, initial tally that we have is that 59 of these respondents won and about 67 po lost their bid. Meron pa pong iba na pending pa po yung proclamation and canvassing po dun sa mga barangays po nila.
Okay. Sa results po, are there still areas where the results are not final?
The results of the elections, ma'am?
Yes po.
Opo, there are still barangays which are ongoing with their canvassing po. But most of our 201,793 cluster precincts have already done with their counting, and most of the, or for 42,001 barangays have already been completed. In so far as the canvassing, we're up to 98% completion. So we're just waiting for the less than 2% to complete and finalize their canvass and proceed with their proclamation.
Okay, pagdating naman po sa automated elections po natin, we had 3 dry runs for that. What is our assessment? Do you think it's possible for us to be able to roll that out in the next elections? Ano po assessment natin?
Opo. Indeed, the automated elections pilot testing in Dasmariñas City and Quezon City 6th District had proven, then again, that the advantage of the automated elections is really the speed of the counting and the canvassing. And as a proof of it, for Barangay Poblacion Zone 2, they had finished canvassing and proclaiming the winning candidates by 5:30 p.m. In Barangay Paliparan 3, again in Dasmariñas City, they had concluded all their proceedings together with the proclamation by 6:30 p.m. And the largest of these, yung Barangay Pasong Tamapo sa Quezon City 6th District, they are done with the canvassing and proclamation as early as 9:30 p.m. po. So it is the speed, the accuracy, and the quickness of the proclamations and the proceedings are there. The only thing that we're looking at is, first, it's the budget. It's really very costly to hold automated elections, be it national or local, or in the barangay and SK election. The second challenge that we have here is the sheer logistics and operations of it. In national and local elections, we only have less than 2,000 different sets of ballots because that's practically based on the number of the cities and municipalities that we have. But if we are to automate barangay and SK elections, we will be having 42,001 different sets of ballots. It is doable, but COMELEC needs the money, the budget, and we need sufficient time to prepare for this. The last thing that is compounding our problems for 2025 is that we will be having the midterm elections in May, and in less than 5 months, we will be holding the barangay and SK elections. The time frame to prepare is really too short, and perhaps we need to start the procurement and the preparations as early as next year, 2024. But unfortunately, we do not have that budget to prepare for the 2025 BSKE as of the moment.
All right, thank you again for joining us. That was COMELEC spokesperson Rex Laudianco. Now, here's a rare but legal way to resolve a tie in election results. In Barangay 7 of Kasiguran in Aurora, Sangguniang Kabataan Bets Alex Agabao and Noriel Torre both got 52 votes. A best of 3 coin toss decided the winner last night. Take a look at this.
Balde, de balde man. 1-0. Isa pa.
Agabao won that flip and was declared SK chairman. There have been a few instances in the past local elections when a tie in votes was broken by a coin toss. One of the most memorable was that of the late daughter of Jesus is Lord founder and Congressman Eddie Villanueva. She won as mayor of Bocaue, Bulacan in 2016 via a coin flip.
It's always good to see that, no, icebreaker amidst the tensions.
Ang matindi doon, nangampanya ka, di ba? Tapos flip coin, best of three.
Oo, pero ako, alam mo kung ang proposal ko, mag-volleyball na lang sila.
Parang tayo, naka-uniform tayo today eh. No?
Halloween ngayon eh.
Now, okay, up next, China is again accusing the Philippines of trespassing in waters near Scarborough Shoal. We'll get more details on that when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching the big story here on One News.
China has accused the Philippines of trespassing into the waters adjacent to Bajo de Masinloc, or more known as Scarborough Shoal in the West Philippine Sea on Monday. In a written letter by the Southern Theater Command of the People's Liberation Army, a Philippine ship allegedly entered Scarborough Shoal, which China refers to as Huang Yan Tao, on Monday. It reportedly entered without permission from the Chinese government, so it was tracked and subsequently barred by their troops. The Philippines has since been urged to immediately stop its infringement and provocations and earnestly avoid further escalation. But National Security Advisor Eduardo Año maintains that the entry of the Philippine vessel into Scarborough Shoal, or Bajo de Masinloc, is not illegal because it is still within the country's exclusive economic zone. Año added that China is overhyping the incident and is creating unnecessary tensions between the two nations. Año also said that the government would continue to protect the country's territory, quote, at all cost. What did the Philippine Coast Guard have to say about China's recent pronouncements? Let's bring in Camille Samonte for the answer. Camille, go ahead.
Gretchen, Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson Commodore J. Tariela warned the public against China-leaning parroted narratives of some Filipinos. In a post on X, Tariela cited three that promote Chinese narratives to downplay its aggression in the West Philippine Sea. Tariela first pointed out that the narratives indicate that speaking up against China's aggression in the West Philippine Sea can lead to war. But according to Tariela, exposing Chinese aggression is not inciting war. He added that by keeping political leaders and countrymen aware of Chinese violations of international law, we are safeguarding our country from political manipulation and disinformation. Tariela then highlighted the recent initiative of bringing journalists to the West Philippine Sea to ensure accurate and unbiased reporting of the events they witness. Lastly, Tariela mentioned that pro-China individuals are labeling those critical of China as anti-Filipino and pro-US. He said that experts and government officials critical of China's actions in the West Philippine Sea are motivated by their dedication to the Philippines. Gretchen, the National Security Council said it has been monitoring several organizations and individuals promoting the pro-Beijing narratives with regards to incidents in the West Philippine Sea. Gretchen?
All right, thank you for that update, Camille Samonte.
Meanwhile, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is set to visit the Philippines this week and meet with President Bongbong Marcos to discuss security and economic cooperation between Tokyo and Manila. Kishida and Marcos will hold a bilateral meeting to discuss areas of mutual concern such as political, security, economic, and development cooperation, as well as people-to-people ties. The two leaders are also expected to tackle regional and international issues and reaffirm the strategic partnership between the Philippines and Japan. The visit of Kishida comes at a time of increased tensions between the Philippines and China over encounters in the West Philippine Sea. Over 100,000 people have been hit by a flu-like illness in the country. Data from the health department shows that they've recorded over 151,000 cases of an influenza-like illness or ILI cases nationwide this year. That's 50% higher than the around 100,000 recorded last year. Among those have been hit by ILI is this family in Caloocan, including their baby, despite them having been vaccinated against the flu. They reported symptoms like coughs, cold, and fever. What's worse is some of their next-door neighbors have also been infected. A medical expert says a flu vaccine does not guarantee that a person will no longer be affected by ILI, noting that the flu virus can mutate.
Mas malaking help ang flu vaccine, but we always say wala namang 100% na bakuna. So, and hindi din lahat ng virus ay nasa loob ng vial na yon, no? So, meron tinatawag tayong quad, no? Or yung apat, or meron ding 3 in 1. Kung yung natama sa iyo ay hindi kasali doon sa vaccine na naibigay sa iyo, siyempre makakalusot yon. Ngayon, kunwari, yung yung virus na nakuha mo doon sa vaccine mo, at least may chance na mas less yung effect, like lesser fever, lesser cough.
To what does the DOH attribute the rise in cases of influenza-like illness and what can be done to prevent it? Francis Orsho brings us the answers. Francis.
Denise, the DOH says they are closely monitoring the rise in cases of ILI. They add that one of the main reasons behind this is the weather. Symptoms of influenza-like illness include fever, coughs, colds, sore throat, chills, and headache, as well as body ache, nausea, and diarrhea. These symptoms could last up to 10 days. Experts advise Filipinos not to self-medicate and always consult a doctor to prevent the illness from aggravating and anyone else catching it. They also advise people to take vitamins, eat healthy food, and have enough rest to protect oneself from the virus. Denise?
Well, thank you for that, Francis Orsho.
We have been hearing about that going around for quite some time now. Di ba parang naalala nga natin na some classes were held off-site to prevent
The spread.
of the flu-like illness. I'm glad meron ng tinatawag dito, ILI, influenza-like illness. I got sick a few weeks back, and I remember the symptoms. I had sore throat, I had fatigue, yung pagod ko yung parang talagang antok na parang knocked
Tas
out.
bagsak ka kagad.
Yeah, and I remember specifically my experience having COVID during the pandemic. Pero sabi ko, I took a test. It wasn't COVID. I was negative. But it also immediately spread to the people I was with. So tama lang na medyo ito nga, it's good nga that the DOH is keeping track of whatever is spreading around.
And at the same time, I think it's important na we actually have a name for it because in the past couple of weeks, yung mga tao was like, hindi, ano lang yan, ubo lang yan.
Yes.
It's just, baka nilamig ka lang or whatnot. But now, since the symptoms we were basically experiencing the same thing, nagpapasa-pasa, and now we know what to do. If it is an influenza-like illness, alam na natin kung anong kailangan natin gawin to prevent it, to cure ourselves, and also not spread it around.
In some ways, it is similar to COVID.
Yes.
Parang 10 days siya, usually. Tapos nakakahawa siya 3 to 4 days at the start when you get it. And you do experience the same thing, like sore throat, colds, nausea, fatigue.
Yeah.
Oo, so better, protect yourself and drink your vitamins. Get sleep. In world news, Israel is standing by its ground offensive, saying it's the best possible course for retrieving hostages taken by the militant group Hamas. Israel said its ground offensive led to a soldier being freed after being held captive by Hamas. The government is now hoping that continuous ground action would pave the way for the release of 200 more hostages. Israel also continued with its airstrikes at the Gaza Strip and has rejected calls for a ceasefire. The Hamas group, on the other hand, released a video of Israeli hostages, accusing Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of failing to act on the October 7 massacre and demanding that he agree on a prisoner swap. Netanyahu said Israeli Defense Forces will continue with the ground offensive.
Our common assessment of all of the, not only the cabinet members, but also all the security forces and the military, is that the ground action actually creates the possibility, not the certainty, but the possibility of getting our hostages out. Because Hamas will not do it unless they're under pressure. But we're committed to getting all the hostages back home. We think that this method stands a chance. It's a goal that we're committed to.
The Foreign Affairs Department reports that there are still 9 Filipinos in Gaza City amid Israel's ground invasion. In an interview with One Balita Pilipinas, DFA Undersecretary Eduardo de Vega said they are struggling to contact these citizens due to the telecommunications blackout. Filipinos in the war-torn area are staying in a shelter and most of them are in the southern part of the Palestinian territory. But they are not without challenges.
Hindi po ako magsisinungaling at sasabihin na okay sila. Hindi po, no? I mean, masamang situation. Merong 9 na nasa Gaza City pa kung anong sinasalakay ng Israel ngayon. May pagkain daw sila. Ang problema, tubig.
Now, after the break, get to know the do's and don'ts for cemetery visits for this year's Undas. Stay with us. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News.
For those trying to make it to the provinces for the observance of All Saints and All Souls Day, it will be an overnight trip. Passengers traffic at the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, or PTEX, remains busy to this hour. To tell us the situation on the ground, we have with us Brian Basa reporting to us live. Brian, how's the situation over there?
Like you said, Gretchen, it's very busy here at the PTEX on the eve of Undas. Though not as packed as it was over the weekend, passengers keep on coming in as they are hoping to make it to their hometowns in time for All Saints Day. Buses are well on standby, ready to bring them to their destinations. Security personnel are on close watch to ensure everyone's safety. As of 5 in the afternoon, PTEX has already welcomed some 83,000 people. This figure is close to their daily average of 100,000 passengers. Terminal management is expecting to hit this figure by the end of the day. PTEX is now preparing for the influx of passengers by November 4th to the 6th. This is when we expect the people who left for the provinces to return to Metro Manila after the election and Undas break. Again, some reminders for travelers: please pack light and do not bring prohibited items for a hassle-free journey. Back to you.
Brian, tell us more about the prohibited items that you mentioned. Ano ba yung bawal dalhin? Kindly remind us.
Yeah, we're talking about, as we reported last week, I think you were the anchor last week when I reported, they are not allowed to bring flammable materials, of course, sharp items, weapons are not allowed either, food with strong smell so that they will not cause any unnecessary distractions to other passengers. Gretchen.
Go ahead, Denise.
No. I was just gonna say na puwera dun sa sinabi ni Brian, loudspeakers. Tama ba? Can you confirm this, Brian? Loudspeakers. Ano pa ba? Yung mga cooking materials, bawal din, ano? Kasama ba yan sa listahan?
Yes, because we also visited, let me clarify, we also visited the Manila South Cemetery earlier today before coming in here to PTEX, and we got to speak to the director of the cemetery, essentially the management, and the reminders to the public essentially come in as early as possible. And as you mentioned, there are some items that are not allowed inside the Manila South Cemetery. Those include sharp items, weapons, liquor, gambling materials, sound systems, loudspeakers, including karaoke machines. They're not allowed to preserve the solemnity of All Saints' Day. Again, aside from that, vehicles will also not be allowed in and around the Manila South Cemetery because portions of Kalayaan Avenue, South Avenue, as well as Vito Cruz Extension or Ocampo Street will be closed. I wonder if we could play the soundbite of the director of the Manila South Cemetery.
Ang inaano ho kasi natin dito is yung security. Mahirap kasi hindi naman ganun po kaliwanag sa ibang parte ng ano. So pine-prevent po natin yung anything na pwedeng mangyari.
Right, yes. So that is Jonathan Garzo, the director of Manila South Cemetery. Again, he's reminding the public to please come in early and refrain from bringing any prohibited items for their safety. Also because the visiting hours at the Manila South Cemetery are from 5 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon. After 5 in the afternoon, the gates will be closed and no overnight stay is allowed for security and the safety of the cemetery goers. Back to you.
Loud and clear. I was taking a look at the traffic behind you. Are numbers less than expected? Because I was looking at reports earlier in NAIA, numbers are already less than expected. Probably is it because of the long week that we have, long week off that we have? Kamusta naman yung traffic dyan sa PTEX?
Right? Medyo maluwag, no? Again, it's not as packed as it was during the weekend. Most of the passengers have already gone to the provinces, to their hometowns. The figure that we said earlier, 83,000 as of 5 in the afternoon, hopefully 100,000 by the end of the day. That is the average daily number of passengers who are coming in here at PTEX. Back to you.
Bakit nga pala pinagbawal yung overnight ngayong taon sa Manila North and South Cemetery?
Yes. Nasabi nga ni Manila South Cemetery Director Jonathan Garzo na there are areas in the cemetery, inside the cemetery, that aren't well lit. So to prevent any untoward accidents or incidents inside the cemetery, over the course of Undas, they are not allowing any visitors past 5 p.m. Although we got to speak to him, he said that there's sort of a leeway, an hour leeway, from 5 to 6 p.m. where they will get to open the small gate, because there are there's the big gates of the cemetery that will be closed after 5 p.m. But there's a small gate beside that will be open from 5 to 6 p.m. to cater to cemetery goers who would like to visit last minute. Because as Jonathan Garza told us earlier na marami kasing mga galing pa raw sa malalayo. Some have come from from farther areas. That's why the cemetery management is hoping to give them that chance to visit their beloved dead, even just for an hour after the visiting hours. Back to you.
For those who aren't aware of that policy, diba? It's good that they're making considerations. Pero ang tanong ng mga producers namin, sabi mo kasi medyo madilim, no, yung ibang corners.
Sabi, kung may kandila naman daw, di ba, liliwanag din naman daw siguro. Kung lahat may dala kandila at hindi na at well-lit na, quote-unquote well-lit. Pwede ba yon?
That's true. And we saw this earlier, as night fell over Manila North Cemetery, we really saw, the solemnity, the solemn atmosphere became more present. You see the candles lined up in front of the graves, the tombstones. Talagang, it really gives you that solemn feel. Although, unfortunately, the lights of those candles aren't enough to really say that a certain area is well lit. So again, for the safety and security, walang visitors past 5 p.m. And yung sa mga hahabol, please make the most out of that hour-long leeway from 5 to 6 p.m.
Bawal din magdala ng bawal din magdala ng lighter, enough time. Kasi bawal din magdala ng bisikleta.
Oo.
Kailangan meron kang time maglakad. Punta dun sa...
Yes. Oo.
Sa Bukurol, di ba?
Yes.
All right, we're happy to hear...
Portions of I mentioned we mentioned that the three roads, that portions of the road that will be closed, that's because they will be exclusive to pedestrians. So tama yung sinabi ninyo na mukhang maglalakad muna yung mga tao on the way to the Manila South Cemetery. Yung mga magbabalak mag-drive, mukhang kailangan nilang maghanap ng parking area somewhere around the Manila South Cemetery because during the day they're expected to welcome 400,000 people especially because wala ng health restrictions. So please agahan po natin ang pagpunta sa mga dadalo o mga bibisita dadalaw sa Manila South Cemetery. Back to you.
All those reminders for All Saints and All Souls Day. Thank you very much for those updates. That was Brian Basa reporting live to us from PTEX.
And before we go, nakapag-trick or treat na ba ang lahat? Kapag-trick or treat
Hindi, nandito tayo.
Mamaya, pwede pa. The night is young. Our big picture tonight is in celebration of Halloween. We have trick or treaters posing with Manila Mayor Hani Lacuna, who is also in her Disney princess costume. Like them, I'm sure many of you have also dressed up today. Being a former U.S. colony, it's no surprise why the custom got easily integrated into our culture. But just a look back at the origins of Halloween, it actually dates back centuries to pagan times, particularly in Celtic nations. It's actually meant as a Thanksgiving festival to mark the beginning of winter. But now it has definitely transformed into a commercial holiday after years of iteration in the West.
So we are in our costumes, right?
Para kaming nasa one team lang.
Beach volleyball.
Oo, pwede. I-push mo yan.
Hindi, pero kung hindi pa kayo nakakapag-trick or treat, you know what you can do? You can treat yourself to a good dinner before...
Yung trick part.
You know why? Because the liquor ban is done. Diba? It ended yesterday. So you can have wine,
Yun na yung trick
have a
mo.
good dinner, treat yourself for tonight.
All right, that's the plan, ha? Now, that is it for the show tonight. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in and good night.